Productions present Street Topics, and you don't want to get caught slipping. You don't know what topics they're going to serve you, from current events to politics, for topics that they don't even want to talk about.
And then, like I said, we bring all the sensitive topics when it comes down to that. And I wish that do change because, like, y'all are so much more valuable than just that. You have intellectual. I mean, you have perspectives, arts, and much more. Don't just pretty much say like, okay, since the world is telling me this is what I gotta offer, this is what I'm gonna offer, put it on the front stage. You don't have to do that. And I've seen that trend happen so often. I wish it would change. But I think what we got to get down to is we got to become bold to not follow worldly or what everybody else is doing. We got to learn how to, like, it's okay to be you without trying to follow the trend of what everybody's doing because it's popular.
There's never an issue with letting a man lead or a man leading. There's not an issue with that. Right. If you feel safe. If I feel safe, I'll let you take me anywhere because I know I can trust you. But if you don't make me feel safe, I'm not going to follow you. For a man to be a leader, we have to feel safe. That man has to be a leader. He has to show leadership qualities. He has to be someone that you can follow. You know, we're not just going to follow anyone or anything. Like, we always hear strong Black women. I know as a Black woman, I'm not angry, but I am so tired of hearing us being called strong. When do we get to cry? When do we get to
ask a question? July the 27th at 9:30 up, I'll send it to Antonio. Antonio's on my brain. It's
Biden.
It's to Josh.
Biden. No, I'm playing.
I'm speaking at a men's event. And
Tune in every Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Central Time Zone. And don't forget to subscribe to Soul Production. Soul Production.
As we go in for another live episode of Street Topics, it's your boy C. Holmes, as always, your great host, and I have my guy, the legend, Sam.
Oh man, you could have had more energetic with that, bro. Come on, now it's like somebody wore your ass out.
Man, I just got spoken to the college a while ago, so I'm still bringing energy though. I got the one event out of this one.
I'm gonna put it like this. What's going on, people? This is your one, the only, the JASSIEM from In the Trenches, and I'm here with In Street Topic with my boy Chris, and we ready to get rocking with this new hot topic.
Live and raw with Trump versus Harris. And I know had things going like that and much more. But like the show is pretty much already going, so we're going to go ahead and live stream it right now and commenting because I already know. Like,
and can I say this before we get right into this? Make sure that you actually listen to what is being asked and if the answer is being, if the question is being answered. In other words, and if someone is lying, whether if it's left or right, just acknowledge the shit.
Said it as it is, and leave it just like that. But with that said, let's go ahead and just jump into the live debate with Trump versus Harris. Here, our talking prize, some more smack and much more. But let's go ahead and see what's going on. All right.
I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us public health.
That's a lie from the pit of hell.
Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our
had more money then
since the Civil War.
And
what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you on this debate tonight,
that's a lie.
You're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again.
But Obama,
I believe very strongly that the American
Not
people
saying
want
that.
a president who understands the
He
importance
used that,
of
and
bringing
he
us
admitted
together,
it.
knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump, will give you a minute
That
to
you're taking
respond.
money from the
Number one, I have
veterans
nothing to do, as
to
you
help
know, and as she
illegals.
knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially.
Thank you.
And
'Cause I
create
need
a
that
great
back.
economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in.
Yeah,
Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people.
Not
I am
necessarily.
offering
That's
what
false.
I describe as an opportunity economy. And the best economists in our
Her
country, if
strategy
not the
is
world,
to
have
talk
reviewed
about
our
him, but not
relative
give her
plans for the
policy.
future of America.
But she's speaking
What
to
Not to
Goldman
general.
Sachs has said
Not to
is
mention
that
that was
Donald Trump's
completely
plan
wrong
would make
because
the
I
economy
own
worse.
pretty much reap the
Mine would
benefits
strengthen the economy.
of my
What
own
the
tax while I
Wharton
was in
School has
office.
said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan
See,
as
she's
something that
attacking
would
him, but she's not
increase
giving her
inflation
own
and by
personal
the middle
plan
of next
for the
year would
policy.
invite a
And people
recession.
are falling for
You
it
just
because they're
have
not
to
paying
look
attention to
at
detail.
where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I
And
do want
he's
to drill
right.
down on
It
something
is a
you both
copy
brought
of
up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response. And you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce, so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights.
The United States is going to become a third world country because he's a businessman.
With COVID,
she's
he
a politician.
actually thanked President Xi
and that's
for what
different.
he did during COVID.
Problem.
Look at his tweet.
She's
Thank
trying to
you,
go
President
as a politician.
Xi, exclamation
He's trying to handle
point.
stuff as a business person.
Gotcha. So it's coming from a business point of view.
Yeah.
I want to make sure the audience hears you.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago,
he's right. She has no policy. She just recently put up a policy that reflects Biden.
She's gone to my
she has no policy.
If she ever got elected, she'd change it, and it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist.
And he's
Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly,
what has she done as a vice president? There's past vice presidents still have done good for the country.
I think it's a lot higher than
while
the
they're in
21.
that position.
That's
she hasn't
bigger
done
than
anything.
New York State pouring in.
Really haven't heard anything.
What they're doing to our country.
And that's my point.
They're criminals.
Everybody's
Many of
going
these
off
people
hope.
coming in are criminals.
A hope
And that's
don't get
bad
you
for
where you
our
want to
economy
be.
too. You know, you mentioned
in
before,
this
we'll
type
talk
of
about
situation.
immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen.
I think my biggest problem with it is that, like, there's no actual, like you were saying, action behind it. It's building off of just pretty much strong hope.
I agree, because they banking the fact that she used the fact of saying that she's black, which she really
on the nerve at this point,
which she doesn't really acknowledge. She's always used saying that she's Asian, which is fine. She want to go there, but how you going to jump ship from one to the other? Then she tried to say that, you know, her family smoke weed and stuff because her dad is Jamaican, which her dad came along and said that that's not true. In so many words, you're lying. So how can one is calling another person a lie while that person that's calling that individual a lie is lying themselves? But at least one is a business person and that was trying to make that money because they know. The other one is politician giving you false hope. And that's the hope that a lot of Americans are falling towards, is the false hope in her when you don't have anything. And then how can you say that you are a true believer if that's what she is, Christian, but you allow homosexuality, which is completely against what's in the scripture, but you want to change the scripture. And we all know, if you're a Christian, God's words never changes. It never wavers. It stays the same from yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So if that is the case, why are people trying to change God's word when it doesn't change, but you said you're a Christian? And you're doing stuff.
Let's see what's going on.
Is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. Mm-hmm. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions, very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, Every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral.
Even though that's wrong.
Okay, so
even though
yeah,
it's wrong.
I was about to lower that. Yeah.
Even though
that's
that don't get me wrong, it's wrong for incest. It's wrong for that. That's a criminal act. The person should go to jail, spend time, or even be castrated, right? But at the same time, that embryo is still a living being. That's still murder. So that is still the same as me or anyone going out and harming and murdering someone. It's the same concept. One is just in the body and the other is outside the body.
Got a body. And we talked about that a little bit on your show as well. When it comes to raping much more, and then how that's very controversial.
Right.
But
and that's more about a mental thing. That's more about a mental thing that a person cannot handle, which I can get that if you mentally cannot handle that because it's the trauma. But that's why individuals should and need to be going to counseling, especially in the Black community, because that's a issue that a lot of Blacks in the community think that it's taboo to go and talk to somebody about your issues, and you got to man up and deal with it. And this is why, because of this programming.
That certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions.
And she's pretty much, honestly, I don't care people like it or not. It's pretty much pressing that whole thing. It's I have the freedom of choice to do that, even though we just pretty much pointed out the false of that.
Right.
We've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states. And the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart. And they wanted it back in the states.
Right.
And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came to your
Well, I won't
desk?
have to because, again, 2 things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. He went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea and how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free, but they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D., and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans.
Yeah.
They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. So wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer the question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question,
you
would you
could,
veto?
you could do
See,
abortions
now
in the
she getting
7th month,
defensive
the 8th month,
because
the
she
9th
know what
month,
the answer
and
is. She don't want to
probably
say it
after birth.
nationally.
Just look
That's
at the
more a
governor,
defense
former governor
mechanism.
of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats,
Harris,
voters across
you
the
on
board
this one.
in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations
Oh, no, no,
for
no.
the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings.
Oh, you done more than
And
that.
let me say that the United States Congress, including
was it
some of the most
actually they
conservative
had
members
it,
of
or
the
you
United
just
States Senate,
lied and
came up
said
with
they
a
had
border
it
security
for
bill,
free,
which I
free labor?
supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put
That is
more
because the state
resources
of
to
Texas
allow
been
us to
sending all
prosecute
those
transnational
illegals
criminal
to
organizations for
Democratic
trafficking in
states.
guns, drugs, and
That's the
human
only
beings.
reason
But you
why
know what
she's
happened
saying what she's
to that
saying
bill?
now. They wanted
Donald
us
Trump got on the
Texas to
phone,
deal with all these
called up
bills
some folks in
that's being
Congress and
racked
said,
up,
kill
and
the
the
bill.
government
And you know
doesn't give us
why?
any money
Because he'd prefer
or
to run
reimburse.
on a problem instead
Pretty
of
much.
fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions who actually addresses the problems at hand.
She's never
But what
been
we
to
have
the
in the
border
former president is
once,
someone who would
and
prefer
she
to
been,
run
Not
on a
to
problem
mention,
instead
and
of
she
fixing
been
a
to
doesn't
the
have,
problem.
border that
And
she
I'll tell
went
you
to
something,
was
he's going to talk
a
about
pussy
immigration
ass
law
border
tonight, even when
where
it's not the
there
subject
was
that is
really
being
no
raised.
illegals
And I'm going to actually do
around.
something really unusual, and
And
I'm
he
going to
went to the
invite
border
you
several
to
times
attend one of Donald Trump's rallies because it's a really interesting
not
one
at
only
to
that,
watch.
different
You
locations.
will see during the course
and
of
we
his
pointed this out
rallies,
in
he
the
talks
beginning
about
too,
fictional
is
characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will
it's like
talk
she
about
had no
windmills
policy.
cause
You
cancer.
mentioned solutions,
And
but
what you
she's
will also
just not
notice
create
is
a
that people
policy
start leaving his
No.
right
rallies
into like the
early out of
of the
exhaustion
election.
and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you.
See, she's still
You will not
attacking,
hear
but
him
she's
talk
not
about your
giving
needs, your
a
dreams,
policy.
and
How will
and your
she fix the
desires.
problem?
And I'll tell
She
you, I
keeps trying
believe
to
you
criticize
deserve
him,
a
but
president
not
who
giving her
actually puts you
policy.
first. And
And
I
this
tell
is
you
That's what I
one
was,
thing
where
that I
that's
will
what I was
black
referring
folks
to.
President
are
Harris,
being
President Trump, on
ignorant
that point, I want to
and
get your
not
Well,
response.
I'd like to
listening
respond.
Let me just
and
ask, though,
picking
why
up
do you
on this
fight
pattern.
that bill and
Because we
successfully
feed off
put
emotions.
thousands of
I
additional
mean,
agents and officers
every
on
time.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened
Because our
3.5
military has
years ago.
gone, and I
And
said it before,
Yeah,
what's
weak.
going on
Our
here, you're going
military
to end
is
up in
so
World War
weak.
III, just to go into another
People
subject.
worry about being a
What
he,
they have
she
done to our
versus
country by
protecting
allowing
the
these millions
Constitution.
and
and our
millions
military
of
is a
people to
joke
come
now.
into our country.
Nowhere
And
near
That's
look
like
at
why
it
what's
used
no
to
other
be.
happening to the
country
towns all over
respects
the
the
United
United
States. And a lot
States
of towns don't want to
because
talk.
of
Not going to be
the
Aurora or
Democrat.
Springfield.
And if
A lot
anybody
of
that's
towns
never
don't want to
lived
talk about it because they're
overseas,
so embarrassed by
you're
it.
living
In
under a rock
Springfield,
because
they're eating the
overseas, if
dogs.
you
The
are
people that
good with
came
the
in,
people,
they're
they will
eating
be
the
honest. They
cats.
do
They're
not
eating.
like United
They're
States
eating
and
the
they do
cats
not like the
of the
current
people
president.
that
I
live
just
there.
spoke to
And
someone
this is what's happening in
overseas
our country.
in
And
Central
it's a
America
shame. As far as
that are
rallies
professional
are concerned,
attorneys
as
and
far as
everything else.
the
They
reason
do not
is they
like
like what
United
I say.
States
They want
current
to bring our country
administration
back.
because it's
They want to
causing
make
problems
America
in
great.
their
It's a very
country
simple phrase. Make America
because
great
of
again.
their pushing the
She's destroying this
LGBT
country.
community
She's
into
the
their
president.
schools
This
and
country
pushing their ideology in
Which
their country.
really
And
successful.
remember, I said in their country,
and they don't
and they're
tolerate
not,
that.
and then
They
they're
don't
not
tolerate that.
respecting that.
Springfield, Ohio.
Hell no,
And
they not.
ABC
They're
News
not
did reach out
respecting
to the
people
city
when
manager
they
there.
when
He
they're in
told us
somebody else's
there have
house.
been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well,
All
I've seen
this.
people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
The people on
this is
television
a
say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good
Yeah.
thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But the
television.
people are
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
But she's
President
not
Trump, I'll give you a quick
addressing
minute to
the
respond.
issue herself.
Thank you, because
She's
when I hear
just
that,
name
see, I'm a
calling.
different kind of a person. I fired
Goes
most of
back
those
to that
people.
emotional aspect.
Not so
Right.
graciously. They did
She still
bad
has yet
things or
to
a bad
answer
job.
exactly
them.
what
They
she's
never
going to do
fired
to
one
fix the
person.
American
They didn't fire
economy,
anybody having to do with
fix,
Afghanistan
you
and the
know, what's
Taliban and
going
the
on with the
13
military.
people
Because from
whose
my understanding,
just
she's
killed
trying to take money
viciously
from
and
us
violently
veterans
killed. And I got to know the
to out of the
parents and the
VA
families.
system, push
They
us
didn't
out of
fire,
the
they
VA
should have fired
system
all
by
those
lessening
generals,
it
all those top
because
people,
and
that was
then
one
give
of
it
the
to the
most
illegal
incompetently
immigrants.
handled
Because
situations
right now,
anybody has ever seen.
technically,
So
all us veterans use what they call community
I
care
fire him. And you
when
take
we
the guy
cannot go
like
see a
Esper, he was so
doctor
good, I
at
fired
the
him.
VA
Writes book.
because
Another one
there's
writes book. Because
there's
with
so
me, they
many of
can
us
write books.
veterans is trying
Nobody
to see
else
a
can they?
doctor.
But
They're
they have
trying to
done
take that
a
away. The
wonderful
Democrats are
job,
trying to take
and
that
they
away from
never
veterans.
fire
But
anybody.
yet you want to
The
ask
economy.
the
Look
American
at the
citizen
inflation. They didn't
to
fire any of their economists. They're
volunteer,
the same people.
give up their life to fight
Have books written about
for
it.
you,
But
to
Mr.
protect you
I got
when
more
you won't
votes
fight
than
and
any
Give
protect
him
us,
nothing.
in history.
Yep.
and we don't get nothing in return.
In fact, I got more votes than
That's
any
bullshit.
sitting
And
president
that's why the
in
military is
history
like
by
where it
far.
is today.
Yes,
Let
that's
me continue on
bullshit.
immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier. So let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S.
With local
military.
police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions
And
of
they
criminals.
did.
They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people,
Venezuelan
drug
gangs.
dealers, to come into our country, and they're
You
now
got
in
the
the United
cartels.
States
That's even
and
more
told
so.
by their countries like
So now
Venezuela,
cartels.
Yeah, he just
never
said it.
come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why?
Because they're
Because they've
coming
taken
here.
their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country.
Yep.
And
He
he's
just
right.
pointed
One
to
of the greatest
He's
mistakes
right.
in history for them to allow, and I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've
They
done.
are.
There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except
He
here.
just said
Crime
that
here
too.
is up and through the roof,
And
despite their fraudulent
he's telling
statements
the
that they
truth.
made.
I have to
Crime
give
in
him
this
credit.
country is
He's not
through
lying
the
on
roof.
that.
And we have a new form
You
of
got-
crime. It's called migrant crime, and it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris, I'll
FBI
give you
they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted.
Okay, so now I gotta say something. Can we finally get some actual debates on like the policies? Because all I'm seeing right now is like straight personal attacks, like from what I'm hearing constantly from Harris. I'm like, I'm really trying to give like a clean slate, but like, can we actually get some more actual arguments on facts and what's going on? And is this a personal attacks?
Of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding
Still doing it.
federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk forward that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support
Housing
our
shortage.
small
Your
businesses.
state is
Well,
giving
Address bringing down the price of groceries.
$150,000 to
But
illegal
frankly, there are
migrants
people are
from
exhausted.
taxpayers' money,
Same old tired
which is
rhetoric.
raising the inflation because you're taking money from paying working folks and you giving it to people that's here
Who ain't doing
illegal and giving them a house, and they're illegal.
The Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. a complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out.
He's right.
It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said
she would benefit that as well.
Terminate the Constitution of the United States.
So
that
it's
he
not a
would
one-sided.
the Department of
She will
Justice
benefit.
against his political
And
enemies.
because she'll benefit,
Someone who has openly
she's trying to
expressed
deter.
disdain for members of our military. Understand what
She
it would
doesn't
mean
care
if
about the
Donald Trump were
military.
back in the White House with no.
That's why the military has a low
guardrails.
rating.
Certainly we
Nobody
know
wants
now
to
the
be
court
around
won't stop him.
somebody
We
in a
know J.D.
foxhole
Vance
that
is
don't
not
know
gonna
whether or
stop
not
him.
you want to be a man
It's
or
up
a
to the
woman.
American people.
And we in a combat.
Vice
Don't know if
President
you want to
Harris,
fight
your
in
last
war
word
in
for
a
Hold
pants
on,
or
hold on,
skirt.
hold on. Because I know we hit on that like from the previous episode when we had our guest, and like the argument was like, because you pretty much like, how am I supposed to trust someone when my life is on the line when they don't even know who the hell they are?
Exactly. And you don't know you want to fight in a skirt or combat pants.
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say
Yeah, see, she
goes
goes back and forth.
Why have so many of your policies?
She like trying to cook eggs,
So
sunny side up.
my
She
values have
flip.
not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least
Inconsistency.
every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the
Do
tie-breaking
you really
vote
want to trust
on the
somebody that
Inflation
say one thing
Reduction
and then they
Act,
change their mind
which
the next
opened
5 to
new
10 minutes? That's the whole thing. Or do you want
we
the
have
lesser
got
two
to
evils
invest
and go with the one that you really
diverse
need? So you
sources of
know
energy.
I honestly, and it's been in books too. Like I'd rather
We
trust
had
a
the
person that's going to be
largest
honest and who
increase
themselves.
in
Like I think in the
domestic
book they
oil
said like
production in history
I'm
because of an
paraphrasing, but they
approach
say like
that
I trust a
recognizes
state than other
that we
things because at
cannot
least I know what I'm getting
over-rely on
myself
foreign
into.
oil.
You know
exactly.
it's
As
and
a
dangerous.
You don't know what you're gonna get yourself into with her because she gives off too many negative and iffy and up and down. Whatever the wind blows, whatever your fart blows in the wind, that's the direction that she's gonna go. And see,
Not the
those
hard
kind
path.
of people are extremely dangerous, and people don't
Because you don't know how they're gonna
understand that,
move.
right? And you don't know how to prepare yourself and be ready
Can't.
for it.
Because it's like spontaneous.
Right.
And be like all good and all of a sudden just explode the next minute.
That is
Right.
related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams.
How you protect? You
My
said long-standing you've
values
done,
have
but
not
there's
changed.
nothing when
And
you do
what
the
is
research that
important
she
is
actually
there is
has
a
done.
president who actually brings value.
But you can definitely pull up the pines when she locked up people. Niggas.
So
Us.
how can you say what you've done? You've been an attorney, a DA, or what have you, over
And she's
in
known for locking
California,
us up.
and then you become a senator. So when you become a senator and you go look up what she's done, she has not done what she says she's done.
$1 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now.
Oh yeah,
Mind, please.
because she done that to other folks.
Yeah.
Because she done.
Oh man,
She good at doing that.
Criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis. She went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead. Fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get to.
environment that she
We're out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home.
He's right about that.
Is there
that did
anything
occur.
you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar.
She got a point.
She was.
Now, my other thing is, why does she have security, but then she won't protect the United States
I'm surprised you're not
from
talking about the border
illegals?
yet. That's because
But she walks
knows
around
what a
with
bad job
security.
they've done. What about those people? What are they going to be?
It's good for her, but not good
What are
for
these
us.
people from
She's
countries
protected,
all
but
over the
we're
world,
not
just
protected.
South America. They're coming in from all over the world, David. All over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
one
ask
of
you.
those, David, one of those people going to be prosecuted. One of the people that burned down Minneapolis.
Yeah, because they just had a
prosecuted.
Venezuelan
Or
2
in
guys they
Seattle.
just
They went
released
into Seattle. They took over a
from
big
jail
percentage of
on
the city of
bond
Seattle.
to
One
go
of those
back
people going to be
to
prosecuted.
the community that they
You might
live
answer that
in
question.
who killed someone.
You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question.
Venezuelan
Move
gang.
forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the president of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital
But you
to
allow
desecrate
illegals
our
to
nation's
attack
capital. On
and
that day,
come in illegal into the
140 law
United
enforcement
States
officers were
and
Very
injured,
give them
controversial.
and
and some
rewarding
died.
them with money
And
by
understand,
giving them
the former
$150,000 to
president
buy a
has been
house of
indicted and
taxpayers' money,
impeached
who
for
have worked
exactly that
all their
reason.
lives paying into
But this
taxes,
is not an isolated
and
And
you're
that
incident.
also
Let's
giving
remember
them
Charlottesville,
$13,000 to
where
$18,000
a mob of people
in
carrying
some states.
forces,
Then on top of that,
destroying any homes in
if
that
they have a
neighborhood.
child with
And what
an
did
American
President
female,
then and
then
this
you're
Congress
giving them
say?
up to
They were trying
$2,000
to
a month.
Einstein.
let me break that down
Let's
for the
remember
people, because let's
that
put it in
when
your
it
shoes.
came
Let's say you
to
worked
cowboys and
all your
militia,
life to
the
establish
president
a
said, the
business.
former
You worked
president
hard
said,
for several
stand back and
years, put
stand
all
by.
your efforts and
So for
your money,
everyone
may have probably
watching who
put some other
remembers what
assets
January
up
6th
just to build
was,
this business, and you finally got it going. Meanwhile, this person who hasn't contributed literally nothing or bare minimum at all comes into this country and basically takes advantage and reaps rewards of everything, and probably even gets more funding than you, and we're supposed to be okay with it. That's what he's explaining. And I think when people face that themselves, then they're gonna start getting pissed off. But when
I
you're on the
agree.
other side and you're only just talking about it, they don't really pretty much relate to it.
I agree.
be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
With a weak
Let me just follow up
military?
here.
Yeah, with a weak military.
A different term, and it was a term that related to energy, because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate, because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border, because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The president of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Right. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you, because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
But
You know
those-
that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote.
That was one issue, yeah, because we had that not too long ago in an article that in Texas about that, how he had a lot of people who was basically coming over here illegally or pretty much probably dead and still for some reason getting votes and represented in Texas. So we have a big issue of that in the state. So he does have a point onto that.
person in an election doesn't have standing, the president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you do a special on it, I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter, because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by whiskers. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk
more so laughing at this country because they think we're weak.
And deny what over and over again are court
They're probably
cases
looking
you
at this
have
debate right now,
lost
laughing at us.
because you did in fact lose that election. It leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart, Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid.
Thank you.
He's right. China was afraid.
North Korea was afraid of him
because he would sit down
with North Korea,
and show them, I will get you killed.
Because they don't respect that. They're gonna pretty much
and Middle East countries do not respect females. So how can you negotiate with a country in the Middle East when they don't respect females? So how can you run a country? And what are you gonna do? You're gonna force them to accept who you are and to have the kind of government you want them to have. So
they're gonna laugh at that. They're gonna laugh at that. One thing I would say
this is crazy. Go ahead.
Okay. One thing I would say, I think people would have a lot more respect for Harris if she actually had like policies intact previously and argued them with factual information more than these personal attacks. I think with that and alongside of just being completely honest, instead of just pretty much trying to ride this whole trend and saying I'm black and stuff like that, we would have a lot more respect. But instead, we're looking at a lot of emotional, pretty much responses.
We're still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
They're not afraid.
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. many of them young people who were simply attending.
But she was at an AKA
women were
convention when the
horribly
Prime Minister of
raped.
Israel
And so
came to speak in
absolutely, I said
Congress.
then, I say now, Israel
So how
has the
can
right
you
to
say
defend
one
itself. We
thing, but
would,
then your actions show that you
and how
don't
we
care
does
about
so
Israel?
matters.
Because you was at an
Because it is
AKA
also true
convention
far too
and
many
not there listening
innocent
to the message
Palestinians have been killed,
of the Prime Minister of
children,
Israel
mothers.
discussing
What
and
we know
saying
is
what
that
is going
this
on,
war
what the
must
problem
end.
is, and how they're
It
going to
must
respond.
end
You're going to go
immediately,
shake your ass
and
with
the
the
way it will
AKAs.
end is we need a ceasefire deal, and we need the
So you
hostages
get the
out.
black vote, and then
And
once you
so
get the
we will
black vote,
continue to
you're not
work
going to have
around
anything
the
to do
clock
with
on
anybody
that.
being black.
Work around the clock, also understanding that
Her
we
leverage that
must
she used
chart a
again is
course
that
for a
because we know
two-state
that
solution.
AKAs are a
And
very
in
prominent
that solution, there must be
Professional,
sorority.
security for the Israeli
elegant,
people and Israel,
smart
and an equal measure
women.
for Palestinians.
But
Yeah.
at this moment,
I
at
will
this
assure
time,
you
they're
all
not being smart.
I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages
Put
out and
fucking
prevent
fear in
the
her.
killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were
Exactly.
president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech.
I just
She
said that.
refused to be there because
That
she was
part.
at a sorority party of hers.
See?
She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel.
See,
If
she
she's
just said
president,
that's
I
not true,
believe
and
that
that is
Israel
true.
will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one.
He just
She
said
hates
it, and
Israel.
she
At
just
the
shook
same
her
time,
head to
in her
say
own
she did
way,
not say
she
that.
hates the
I mean,
Arab
did not go. That did
population
not happen.
because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation. And now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality.
When she started stuttering,
it is
that's when
very
she
well
started to
known
lie because somebody
Donald
got a
Trump
stump.
is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself.
But she has
It is
not
well
addressed the
known
fact that she
that he
wasn't there
said
in
of
President
Putin
Congress.
that
She was at a
he
sorority
can do whatever the
event.
hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is
The
why
same thing with what's going on with
so
her.
many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we
And
understand that we
if it
have
don't
to
come
have
out
a
the
president
horse's
who
mouth,
is
I
not
don't believe what they
consistently
say.
weak
Because
and
anybody and
wrong on
everybody
national
will lie
security, including
and
the
say somebody
importance
said
of
something and didn't
upholding
say it.
and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it. that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it, because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me.
He has.
The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent.
We just
and they
said
are.
that.
They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
The ABC News presidential debate will continue after this.
Man, what do you have to say about all this?
Man, she has lied more than what Trump has lied, to be honest with you. She's never answered the question in regards to that was asked. When the question is asked and she has no rebuttal, she tends to start either stuttering, or if she stutters, then she starts attacking him. But she never gives any answer to the question. This is the problem. This is what people don't see. They see more of, and people are attracted to the conflict and not the message. And because you are attracted to the conflict and not the message, then someone come along and just tell you anything and you not pay attention, and then you right back voting for the wrong person because you're voting on for culture, you're voting on emotions.
And that's what we talked about in the previous episodes. Okay, look, I know we have pretty much been programmed that, if you don't vote for this person, you're not black and all that and much more. But we really got to see the bigger picture, what's really going on. And if you really look at the inconsistencies that is constantly and then on top of that, I keep bringing this up. She has locked, we talk about culture, and then she has a track record of locking us up a lot.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much been proven. So you want someone to get even a higher position, and you don't have a track record of being inconsistent, and you want them to be in a place of power to decide things, and not to mention, and let me address this. So I can tell you right now, like a lot of women like to pretty much push her because, they want their voice to be heard. But let's look on a global aspect. With the way that she's moving right now, it's not being respected by other countries. They're laughing at us. They're saying that we're weak as hell.
And they're lying. They're lying to the American people, because majority of the American people have never, and I repeat, have never lived outside the United States. Some of the American people probably have not ever lived their county or their city or their state. And you expect them to understand and automatically say, oh, so that's how they feel, without actually living in that country, with actually not being a bitch or an asshole to the people in that country that you are in their house, that you should be showing respect to, and not forcing your American thinking and ways on them, and actually listen to them on what they think. And I do this all the time. I did it when I was on duty, active duty, and they always gave me an honest answer. Who they liked, who they did not like, and the reason why. And I said it before, and I say it again. A lot of Europeans and people in other countries do not like America. And when I mean America, this is from people in Japan, people from over in Europe. They do not like white Americans. They have no issue with black Americans. And they made sure they describe and enforce that's who they really don't like. But they love their money, but not them at all, because they come with the mentality of privilege. They think they can come and force their ways on them in their country and act a fool and nothing can happen to them like a Karen overseas. This is the mentality right now, and that is why we are a laughing stock in this world. While everyone knows a boy and a girl, who they are and what they are, now we are the only ones. They got people that's confused as hell of who they are because they want to play house of another gender and be called another gender, which is a fool. That's me like calling myself, I'm a cat. I'm not black. I'm just a cat. Or I'm a cow. Moo.
Yeah,
You
because we're
know?
so focused on emotions than anything. And I want to kind of like piggyback off of that. So like now we're into, especially in the society where we care. Okay, look, yes, there's a right and wrong, and we must care about other civilians, things like that. But when you're talking about in a global aspect, and we're talking about power and war, you can't be nice to everybody.
Exactly.
And I know people don't like to hear that, especially those that are
This
stuck.
ain't no fucking La La Land or no Disney World.
And I look, me being optimistic, I wish it was like that. But let's be real. There's people that will actually sacrifice their lives and actually do pretty much to harm thousands of other people. Like it ain't nothing. So with that said, you have to pretty much be very stern on what you stand on and defend for your own country. And let me go ahead and kill this off too, because I guarantee with this election is going to be brought up again. Voting Republican is not just vote. Okay, let me just put it like this. We in today's society think that if you are black, you have to automatically vote Democratic. Please stop.
Bullshit.
Please stop that shit. And if you want to do history research, there's a lot of Republicans that have represented for African Americans who have done a tremendous amount of job in moving us forward. And one of them that everybody should know of, and if you don't, you need to do some research, is Frederick Douglass, who was
he was a Republican.
So we need to stop this bullshit of thinking like, okay, you may not like everything that one Republican candidate says, but if you really do the research and just get out the programming, vote for what's pretty much best in your own neighborhood or for yourself. Now, to vote for the party, but what I'm saying is like get out of the program of saying like, oh, for me to be this certain race, things like that, I got to vote this way. Well, let me go back to the video.
I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately, it must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it.
Biden is frail. He has no balls.
Worse, and it could lead to World War III.
And
Don't
he's
kid
right.
yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's. Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here,
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our
That
president?
part.
But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war? Yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being
and all the
destroyed.
money that you're taking.
President
Yeah.
Harris, I want to get your thoughts on
And giving
support for
away.
Ukraine in this moment, but also as commander-in-chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia
But you meet with
invaded,
Zelensky, but you didn't want to meet
through
with the Prime
force
Minister
to
of
change
Israel.
territorial boundaries, to defy
Details.
one of the most important
I'm glad you
international
caught that
rules and
too.
norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support
She did not go to no
Ukraine in
fucking
its
Romania
righteous
because that'd have been
defense.
all on
And
CNN
because
News.
of our
But
support,
CNN can't hold
because
shit.
of the air defense, the
CNN can't hold
ammunition, the
water.
artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that
That's
we
lie
provided,
from the
Ukraine
pit of
stands
hell.
as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance
Because they can get
known, which is NATO.
the reason why. The reason why is
To
because he
preserve
cut the
the
funding.
ability of Zelensky and
He
the
cut the
Ukrainians
funding
to fight for their
into
independence.
NATO.
Otherwise,
United States, and
Putin would be
people, you
sitting
watching
in
this and
Kyiv
listening to this,
with his
look at
eyes
how
on the
much
rest
money
of Europe,
that the
starting
United
with
States is
Poland. And
funding
you
other
think
countries
800,000
that's
Polish
coming out of your
Americans right
taxpaying
here
dollars that they're
demonstrated
not telling you,
quickly you
and
would
you're not researching and you're not realizing.
favor.
This is the reason why they
And
want the
because of
Democrats in other countries, simply
Because
because
they
of the
get their
money.
advantage.
who would eat
Because that's
This
less
is
that come out of their pocket and more come out of ours.
this is why, like, when it comes to certain positions like that, you don't need someone that's going to be extremely nice, because they will run over you.
I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow, much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that.
And he's right.
Eventually,
There
maybe
was
he'll
a
use them, and
ship
maybe
down
he
in
hasn't
Cuba
been that threatening,
and a sub
but he
ready
does
to
have
shoot
that.
and
Yeah, that
aim.
that
Something
made
we don't even like to talk about.
that
Nobody
made
likes
the
to talk
news.
about it.
Didn't like
But
it
just so you
close, like the
understand,
Florida
they
coast.
sent her
Yeah,
to
no,
negotiate
not
Yeah.
peace before this war
it was over in
started.
Cuba,
3 days
but it
later,
got close,
he
but
went
not
in
too
and
close
he
to the
started
U.S.
war because
line.
everything they said
I think we're
was
talking about the same one. Yeah.
stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, you did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one.
But what people
When
don't
I went
understand,
to
when
meet
you
with President
are an
Zelensky, I now met with him
ex-president,
over
you
5
still
times.
get
The
top
reality is
secret
it has been
clearance.
about
You still
standing
get
as America
notification.
always should.
As long as you're
As a
alive, you
leader
get
upholding
top secret
international rules and
information.
norms. As a
The
leader
national
who
from
shows
NSA to
strength,
all of them folks, you
understanding
still
that the
get those
influence we have
briefings.
around the
So
world
for what
are
he's saying,
dependent
he
on our
keep in
ability to
mind he
stand up
may
for
be
our
telling you the
and
briefings
not
that he's been
favor
getting
our enemies because
on
you
this particular
adore
situation.
strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander in chief, and the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility
She
in
doesn't.
terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen, he's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO.
I just
we were
said
being
that.
ripped off by European nations,
I
both
just
on
said
trade and
that.
on NATO.
You did.
I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before.
And we were always
if you don't
sponsoring
pay,
other
we're
countries by
not going to
coming out
protect
of
you.
our
Otherwise, we would have
pockets.
never gotten it. He said it
That
was
part.
one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the
I really
chaos
don't think people like hard truth.
I do want to ask the Vice
No,
President,
because people
do you believe you
don't
bear
want
any
accountability. People like being lied to. And because the lot, that means that in that accountability situation, they have to be accountable and see that they are the one that caused the situation in this country, in the city, in the county, in the state, because they fail to listen. They just wanted to hear or just go with the flow. And the biggest problem is a lot of people go with the flow and it causes more problem. And because it causes more problem, guess what?
All right, real quick, because like I can tell you right now, especially with some of the comments that you're giving, they're gonna be like, "Man, he don't know what he's talking about." Hey, go ahead and tell me a little bit of background about your military and other credentials that you got degrees. I think they need to be reminded of that.
Look here, I'm not the smartest man, but I ain't the dumbest man, and I say that with all humbleness. And many of you don't know. Yes, I have 6 degrees in different areas. One is political science and history, others in legal, some in also in what I used to do in the military. But regardless of all of that, I have served the United States in the military for 16 years. I've been in positions where I'm able to see the numbers of what we have in certain places. So when I'm speaking from knowledge and being there, done that. And I'm also speaking from another side, being in the military, as handling money for the government in regards to the military bases, the base that I was assigned to and stationed at. So I know how the money goes. I know the codes. There are codes in the money where they can swap money around. Even though it may be money for the carpool, and then the carpool is in the same category as the aircraft, they'll take that money out of the carpool money and give it to the aircraft, and then the carpool is stuck. And then now the carpool is asking. I've seen them shuffle money like that. So when I'm talking from knowledge and experience. And this is why I get so agitated with people that try to debate or argue with me.
Even if they never even been serving in the military or been
exactly there. Because you're too cowardly to join. You're too cowardly to even sacrifice because you're too selfish. You're coward. And those that have served, that debate with me, have never been in combat. And I have been in combat in 2003 in Iraq. So I've seen a lot. I know a lot. And I still connect with people a lot to make sure I stay on top of what is actually going on. And I'm not talking about just stuff in the past, but how that past is still the present and how it's still going to be in the future if there's no change.
Well, heard it from him. Let's go back to this.
Beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
You can't be weak.
Yeah.
I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, "I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black."
Yeah.
I didn't know she was black.
Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is
that's the same thing as he when we call the she and she when we call the he. She doing the same shit.
I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people.
No.
You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know
Yeah.
we have someone more in
Yeah,
common
she's deflecting that.
We don't
He's
want.
deflecting
This kind of
the hell out of
opponent is
that.
just
He's deflecting the
constantly
question
trying to divide us, and especially by race. And
She
let's
used it as like
remember
a strike against the
how
people.
Donald
No,
Trump
no, no, no. That
started.
was
He
against
was
you. See,
a
this is all right. I got turned down.
land. He
This is
owned
why,
his
like, when
land, he
people
owned
defend her,
buildings,
and Kim and I would give her a lot more respect if she wasn't doing stuff like this instead of owning up into it. And this is my problem with her.
And she cannot determine whether she can easily come out and say, I'm biracial. But why did all these years she kept saying that I'm Asian, I'm Asian, I'm Asian, I'm Asian, I'm Asian. Now when you run for office, now I'm black, I'm black. So which one is it? Because she has a history of flip-flopping like you do eggs.
This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that.
And she got a point in regards to how he attacked Obama.
Who understands as I do.
He did do that. I didn't like that myself,
But
so I will say that.
The point is, did Obama claim anything? Yes, he was like, I'm black, straight up from the beginning. He didn't say I'm white and then switch and say I'm black.
And this is my problem with Harris. I wish people would get that. That's why I say it again. I would have a lot more respect for her.
Even if Obama said I'm biracial, I will still respect that. But when you pick a side and then you in a position where you need votes and you switch other sides,
it's inconsistent.
Who invest in those, not in hate and division.
But she's not answering the question.
Thank you.
She's not.
President Trump, this is now your third.
She dodged that whole damn question, and I hope people realize that.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said.
See,
going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is.
They
Their
don't.
Oil policies,
We're in
every
trillion-dollar debt.
Democrats, I'm not gonna lie, their policies destroy the economy.
I don't know the
Exactly.
Look,
it always destroys the military.
And like I said, like I'll say this again, I'm not rich. I want to be rich in the future, but I can tell you right now, I had a lot more tax favor when he was in office than when the Democrats got in. Because as soon as I lost half the shit that I wanted to write off, it just went out the window.
And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country. One who believes.
One who don't know if you want to be a male or a female.
A sense of optimism about what we can do.
And giving those decisions to a 5 or 6 year old that's still trying to develop.
I believe in what we can do to
I guess that's the leadership that they want.
Which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan.
No, you don't. You just made it.
She's never given her plan.
To pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas.
But the American people are going to have to pay for that.
$6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development.
See, that's giving money out.
That is about
and when you give money out, you're making people an addict. And black people in the community are addicts. And when I mean they are a serious addict, when someone gives you free money,
we are addicts to the government giving us. Okay,
and
so
there's nothing that is attached to that money. When you find out every single time, there's always an attachment. There always you sign your name, your contract in blood when you took that
money. We'll give you this money. And let me say this, my brother, my sisters, we have got to stop doing that because we are so used to pretty much being spoon-fed that, and because we don't want to take accountability and pretty much showcase that we can move on our own. Do you realize how much power or how much leverage or how much mobility that you lose when you do that? we are so used to not taking accountability and taking the easy way out of things. It actually makes us suffer, and then future generations suffer even more.
They still
because now they
still want to suck on a Democrat's titty. That's all they want to do. And when they don't get the titty, they want to cry,
have a temper
and throw a tantrum. That's basically what's going on.
Oh, and better yet, and I know this is going to be controversial, use scripture or religion to pretty much argue their point. Yeah, I just said that. But yeah.
We're going to do it, and we're going to replace it. But remember this. I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be? Never going to be great. Or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it.
So let
but
me
until
hit on
then,
this
I'd
one.
run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
She flip-flopped.
First of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times.
Because it was
I was
forcing
a senator
people that could
at
not
the time
have or
when
couldn't
I will
afford it.
never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being,
that is true.
You don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value
But she cannot do that. She can only enforce the law.
Access to health care.
Congress can create the law. That's what people are not understanding. She can say all what she's going to do, but at the end of the day, she can only enforce the law that Congress created. So she can only negotiate.
And Congress has the main power of that.
Yes.
At number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get. People are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money.
And I'm glad he did mention that, because I'm not gonna lie, if I had that kind of funds, I'd probably do the same thing. Now, with that said, I will say, like, I got my own health insurance through Obamacare, but there is some faults that I see that should be improved. I'm not gonna say it's perfect. Definitely needs some improvements. And I'll be open to see how ways they can improve it to make it better, because it's not all affordable like you think, is because the rates can increase, especially if you have medical condition and things like that going on.
And said the climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been
that's because
the victim
of all
what
this money
that
that they're giving away
their
to
home,
people.
having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing
I'm gonna sound like a devil's advocate. Okay, yes, I do love the fact of, like, investing into a lot of domestic things inside the country. Now, and I know that you know this as well, just when it comes to oh my God, products and resources. If you know another country that can specialize better, or is better useful or quicker at those resources, you pretty much export it out the country. Like, I understand it being domestic, but being smart economy wise, so you don't do that if you know
And she's not
another
a
country is
business
better.
person, so
And
she's trying
I
to debate.
understand that.
And the thing about it is, she's trying to debate with a business person.
And
it's like him trying to debate with an attorney saying what's legal and not legal, and he's not an attorney.
He will lose.
And so she's trying to debate with a business person, and she doesn't have a business. She's always had a boss over her. He's always been his own boss. So there is a big difference in the mentality of these two people. So do you want somebody that has always worked for himself and made money, made mistakes, but still found a way to be on top? Or do you want someone that's always had a boss over them dictating what to do, how they do it, and where they do it, and then she flip-flops in her decisions, not really have a policy?
Inconsistency. But yeah, I think that's what a lot of people has issue with it, because we used to have so many. Actually, let me point this out. I know we have a lot of people in the regular working force. Yeah, that's all over America. But I don't think people understand that they have those jobs because it took an entrepreneur with some kind of idea or invention to pretty much form those kind of jobs. I think we have this so much of a
creativity.
Yeah, we have so much of this negative perspective at times when it comes to entrepreneurs, because it may be aggressive, but a lot of jobs would not be established if it wasn't up to those kind of people.
Exactly. That's my point.
So let me, I know you sent me a link right here. I'm gonna share this one. Let's see. Have you already looked at the link? Because I'm gonna go with you to kind of guide through.
Yeah, it's just what I want people that's watching is to understand, when people are talking, validate what they're talking. The link what he's going to show is during the time of Biden's administration. You will see what bills that were signed and passed. And you can search as long as your heart content, and you will see whether or not what she's saying is true or not up under their administration. It gives you a brief synopsis of what the bill is, and also it gives you as well who are the senators that's behind the bill in regards to that. If you do your research, you will find the fact. If you fail to do the research, you will believe whatever anything and anyone to tell you, and it's still your fault in regards to this situation.
Well, you definitely showed me something because I didn't even know about that. So this is great information. You can see the link as I share the screen. But yep, here you go, like the Federal Prison Oversight Act, some other stuff as well. So
it's just right
you
there.
really can pretty much go down through here.
Go all the way down. You can go through how many pages, and you can find what bill actually was passed and signed during that time or during this time of Biden. And for those that's watching, basically the way you go find it is at whitehouse.gov/briefing-room/legislation/. And if you go to that, that will have every single bill. And just look at the time, the dates of the bill to know
because it has the dates.
To correspond exactly with who was in office at that time.
Well, I mean, shoot, this was about street topics, keeping it raw and educational. So, like, straight from the White House itself. So,
and it's coming. You're right. It comes directly from the White House.
So we don't really have no excuses. Here's shit back to the screen. Are they still in commercial break? So while they're in commercial break, I'll keep an eye out for it. Anything else that you want to add on to this? Because like what I'm getting a lot is, of course, with me having my background in business, honestly, Harris doesn't really understand when it comes to the economics of things, of how things should move. We know that a lot of inconsistency, and even pretty much the person that was asking her question was pointing those things out too. And you can definitely see how she pretty much rebutted and try to like switch and get away from the question. Now, with that said, I will see some faults in Trump as well too, because Trump has his black eyes, you can say, as well, where he had to pretty much respond to some of the things that he done in his past. So I'm not just hitting up on Harris. Trump has his issues as well. So just being completely honest. But
yeah, he has his. But the thing about it is simple. The lesser of two evils. Do you want to deal with the devil you know, or the devil that you don't know?
And I think people don't understand that, because like it's the lesser of the two evils. We both know, like, we probably prefer someone of a better candidacy for either party. But it's just like, okay, if I have to grab a goddamn snake, and I had to say it like this, at least let me grab the snake that want to be honest with me, because I don't want to grab an unpredictable snake, because I don't know what the hell this motherfucker going to do.
Yeah, I mean, or grab a snake that you know or you're more familiar with.
Yeah,
in their behavior, so you already know how to respond. You are more better and well prepared versus a snake that you really don't know. One minute it might try to attack you, next minute it may be, it may be calm. So how do you know that you can really trust the snake that act and conduct themselves back and forth? It's just like a dog. One minute a dog is lovable, want you to rub them, and then the next thing you know is ready. See, and that's how Harris is. She's back and forth, back and forth.
Unpredictable. Don't know what you're gonna get. All right, I think they're pretty much about to go back. Just gonna switch back over. Let's see what we got. That maybe come to a close.
Folks, a break in bringing cost of living. I believe in what we can do together. That is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military, and ensuring we have the most lethal
How you respect the military
in
and
the
you're
world.
taking
I will
money
be a
from the
president that will
Department of
protect
Veteran
our
Affairs?
fundamental rights and freedoms,
wait,
including
and
the right
you
to vote,
gave
make
I
money.
gotta
decisions.
meet her on that. Yeah, you go ahead and speak your point.
You
Because
gave money to migrants. You told the Department of Veteran Affairs, and it's in the article in military.com and starsandstrike.com. If you do the research, they wrote an article basically all saying, and the senators, or one of the senators put it on their website, stating that Biden was in this time, what they do is they told the VA to treat the illegal migrants while 800 and something or plus, 800 plus, actually is more than 800. That's why I add the plus. We're sitting there waiting to be treated by the VA. And now, like I said before, you're
let me
taking
go ahead.
community care away from us veterans who are able to go outside to get some medical treatment when the VA is too crowded for us to be able to go and get the treatment. You're trying to take that, and then you're going on national TV, and this is pissing me off. You're going on fucking national TV with this motherfucking bullshit, and then you have American people trying to believe this bullshit.
Believe the shit. Man, oh man. Ooh, let me play the video.
People don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world.
I don't know about y'all, but this whole debate kind of low-key gave me a headache because I was like, oh my God, are we really doing this?
Now, I sent you something, and I really want you, if you can.
Let me go ahead and okay. Let me pull it up.
This is what I'm talking about.
Let's go ahead and share the link. Here we go.
And when you share,
there you go. It should be coming up now. Uh-oh. Hold on. Hold up. May have some technical difficulties. All right, so as we did we lose you?
Oh,
you back?
Yeah. I want you to read that information.
All right, let me share again.
And read exactly where that information comes from.
All right, so Blackburn, U.S. Senator for Tennessee. Blackburn to Biden, VA, putting illegal immigrants above American veterans. Oh, shit, is unacceptable. All right. Washington, D.C., U.S. Senator Marshall Blackburn today pressed Veterans Affairs Secretary Dennis McDowell on reports that the VA is prioritizing Medicare and benefits for illegal immigrants. What the hell? at the expense of American veterans and taxpayers.
Mm-hmm.
Over 1 million veterans are waiting to be claimed to be processed while taxpayers cover.
And this
What
is
the
why
hell? Hold up. Wait, I know that
us veterans
94.3 million?
are so pissed off. This is why veterans are
Oh,
suffering.
no.
This is why veterans don't know if they're going to get the next meal for the day. This is why veterans are homeless.
Oh, no.
This is why veterans have an animosity towards and more towards the government. And I'm not saying all of them, and I'm not speaking all, but I'm saying the majority. This is the reason why veterans feel the way they do about why should I serve a country when they're not protecting me. And this is the reason why I question, should Black America save white America when we go to war? Because they're not taking care of us. They're not taking care of the Black community. And on the sides there, they're not even taking care if you are a veteran in the right way.
I'm going to kind of go through the other 2 links that you sent me as well, because I know we got to come to a close, but I want to make sure I share the links that you sent me. And then it's not just from there. We also have another one from, I think it's a New York Press. I think.
And we all know how the Department of
New York
Affairs.
VA, here another one. VA ripped, come on, computer, ripped for helping pay treatments of over 400,000 veterans, their families wait. That's like a slap in the face. Just come on, this thing acting. This link act like you don't want to move. Probably got too much stuff going on. I don't want to freeze. Got all these extra videos. Can we move now? All right, good. Dang, this thing got all kind of. I'll tell you one thing: New York Post look at all this advertisement. Jeez, they are trying to make sure they get their funds covered.
When you check out the next one, it is a individual that specifically stated that the Democrats, Biden's administration, is keeping silence in regards to them treating illegal immigrants in the VA system.
Is it the Fox News one?
Yes.
All right, let me.
If you can, pull that up.
All right, give me a second. Let me close this other one too, because it's the other website. I don't want to get one.
And I gave you the different links because I want to show your listeners and your watchers to see it's not just a one-sided view.
Side. A lot of sources are saying the same thing.
Thank you.
So there's consistency about it. So
thank you.
Then Senator breaks silence on Biden. Oh shoot! The hell! I gotta highlight this. Look at that. Biden and providing veterans to illegal immigrants.
Yes.
Oh hell no. Oh hell no. This just came my damn self. You want me to play this video right here? Because I feel like this is
you can. You can.
Let me play a little bit real quick. Let's see. Come on, video play. For after this commercial break. Super
yeah, it's one of those things, you got the little commercial and stuff, but this is my point of view why veterans think the way they do. Now, you still got veterans that are just like Black folks. They just want to go with the Democrat side, but don't want to see the truth.
The Department of Veterans Affairs is busy processing over 160,000 claims for illegal immigrants in fiscal year 2022 alone.
Who was in office in 2022? Isn't it Biden now?
$4 million taxpayer dollars. And they were processed while some U.S. veterans are still waiting for their own care. Mark Geist is a Marine Corps veteran who served on the Benghazi security team. He's also the founder of the Shadow Warriors.
I know I read another article.
Yeah, just listen to what he's about to say.
Corporal who was medically and honorably discharged in 2014. They both join me now. Mark, what do you think about this? We knew that taxpayer dollars were going towards illegal immigrant health care. That's one thing. Now we're learning that a group of VA employees are processing some of those claims. So what are your thoughts?
It outrages me that we're putting veterans behind illegal aliens, people who are breaking the law. I think it's outrageous that we do that. I think the Biden administration has failed our veterans. And fortunately that there's organizations like Shadow Warriors Project that will rise to the occasion to fill these gaps that are created by the Biden administration.
Tell us how. Tell us about Shadow Warriors Project.
So after Benghazi, when I got injured, me and my wife started Shadow Warriors Project to help private security contractors that get killed or injured overseas, as well as veterans with service K-9s, as well as a PTSD therapy course with dogs. And we also, my wife has started a caregivers program for those that are usually left behind or left to the side of the veteran, and that's our spouses that take care of us so well.
Well, thank God for you, because there are veterans out there who desperately need the help. Shelby, tell us your story. You were medically and honorably discharged in 2014 following an incident at Camp Pendleton. What happened?
Yes, so while I was serving in the Marine Corps, I had 3,000 pounds fall on my leg, and I suffered terrible injuries to my ankle and to my heel. And it resulted in, when I was 19 years old, they told me that I might never walk again, which was absolutely terrifying. So I was medically separated from the Marine Corps and then underwent a process with the VA. And now I am medically separated and pursuing careers that I wish were in the Marine Corps.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. And we're so sorry that happened to you. How are you doing?
I'm doing as best I can. I mean, I'm in pain every day, which is incredibly unfortunate, but thanks be to God that I can actually walk still. You know, they said I'd never be able to walk again, and that was terrifying, especially at 19 years old. You know, I'm 31 now, and thank God I'm able to walk, but am severely limited as to what I could do after the Marine Corps. I thought that was going to be my life, and I love the Marine Corps, but my job opportunities were severely limited after that.
Well, I'm sure that you have a lot of medical bills and a lot of claims to file through the VA. So I want to get your reaction to what a VA spokesman said about using employees to file these claims for illegal immigrants. His name is Terrence Hayes. He told the New York Post the VA does not provide or fund any health care to ICE detainees. This involves no more than 10 employees and is fully funded by ICE. This has no impact on veteran care services.
Bullshit.
At no time are any VA healthcare professionals or VA funds
and I
used
know
for
you
this
work.
purpose. Would actually like to
Good
get
amount of
responses
people
from
get
both
their
of you on this,
benefits.
because the VA
So I
is
know you
actually
calling
just
that
saying
bullshit.
it's just a group of 10 employees who are filing these claims. All this money is coming through ICE, not us, so no big deal. Shelby, what are your thoughts? And then Mike, I want to get your reaction as well.
Bullshit.
I think it's an absolute slap to the face to veterans, honestly.
And
I mean,
look, not just coming from you.
Our tax money is going to the Veterans Affairs and Veterans Administration, and it's not going to the actual veterans. That's a slap in the face. It's already a vulnerable thing to go and ask for help, and then to be waitlisted or denied or delayed to even get your care. And the fact that that money is going to people who aren't Americans, it just seems like we're not putting Americans first. And veterans, as you know, we put America first. So it's incredibly heartbreaking. And I mean, I don't know whether it makes me more angry or sad.
Mark?
Angry.
First off, I just want to tell Shelby, thank you for your service and Semper Fi, another Marine on here.
Semper Fi.
You know, it's us veterans that pay the price when we go overseas. We sacrifice, our families sacrifice. We come home injured, broken, and what do? We get a slap in the face again that our administration, those that we protect, are not taking care of veterans. There's 40 veterans a day are committing suicide. There's more than 150,000 veterans who are homeless, and we're housing we're housing illegal aliens in schools and kicking kids out. I mean, this administration is a complete failure, in my opinion.
It feels like everything is backwards, but we thank you both so much for your service. We are still a great country because of people like you. Mark and Shelby, thank you so much for joining us.
We're no longer a great country because there's no longer people like us in the military because of Biden.
Oh man, you know what? As we come to a close, I'm gonna let you come on give the closing statements, because a lot of this is, I know, a lot of unrest with America, but especially a slap in the face of the military. So you give your closing remarks and where they can find you.
Hey, well, you can find me at in the trenches, THA podcast, every Friday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on the YouTube channel, but also too, you can catch all the past conversations and topics on iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, all other podcast platforms. Subscribe, like, comment, share, get on it. But the most important thing, stop being the fool. Stop being lied to. Stop it and be accountable. Know your enemy. Your enemy right now is yourself because you fail to understand and know the truth. So you are your worst enemy. Stop. Get the truth and understand the issues and not what somebody is just verbally telling you.
Well, I'm gonna leave it like that. Make sure you subscribe and keep the conversation going. And of course, when we have more debates and much more, we're gonna have it live and raw on Street Topics, bringing you the news and pretty much like live stream commenting as we did for today. But make sure that you keep this message going because your voice does matter. And so let's bring it from the streets into the mic. So with that said, peace out, y'all, and catch y'all next time.
Peace.
Peace.